Madilynn here with the Chapter Goddess, and today I have a fun author for you guys to meet. I am going to let him introduce himself and tell us a little bit about his recent work. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm Thomas Kast. I'm an illustrator and photographer, and I've recently published a philosophical science fiction novel. It's satirical piece in which I lampoon the humanity. It's full of humor, dark humor, and it has everything in it sci-fi fan would expect: time travel, portals to different universes, and characters acting stupidly all the way. Stupidity is one of the things that always fascinated me. So the book is full of silly people doing silly things.
Nice. That is fascinating. And I love the cover art on this. You did that yourself, correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
That is amazing because I'm not the best with that kind of stuff. It's been a huge learning process for me, but I absolutely love the mashup of colors and everything you've got going on. Even with the comic book stuff that you sent me, that is gorgeous. Go ahead and tell our viewers a little bit about that too.
I've been working mostly with universities. I've been doing scientific illustration, which were then used in UN reports. And basically, the idea was to explain complicated things to policymakers. And I've been doing it for quite a long time. Alongside, I was jotting all sort of characters and things. And at one point, I've accumulated enough to create the comic book. I just added some crazy ideas that have been hatching in my head, and that's also that I'm by profession I'm an illustrator. I used to teach illustration at the university for several years, and I think my writing and illustration both go hand in hand. They both have a lot in common.
That is awesome. So what led you out of the academic world?
Out of the academic world?
Yeah.
Well, that's a kind of a funny story. In a way, I've been lecturing in Israel for several years, and Israel is a bit problematic because there are missiles flying over your head. And there was a period I remember where there were missiles, I think, being fired 3 to 4 times a day.
Oh my gosh.
And yes, and the thing is, the way it works is like this. You hear the siren because the alarm system is pretty good. And it usually happens at a very inconvenient time. So for example, when you are eating, watching a film, or in a shower or something, all of a sudden you hear the siren, there's a missile coming. So you have to run to the shelter. And one time I remember every house has a shelter. In Israel, we were late to the shelter because when the siren stops, you have 30 seconds to impact.
Holy cow.
Yes. So yeah, it was, after a couple of months, you kind of, I don't know, you go bonkers, but you get used to it. I don't know if it makes any sense. So we ran down and we hid behind the northern wall because the missiles were coming from the south. And this time, because we live near Tel Aviv, it's a huge area. Mm-hmm. And the missile hit the building in front of us, and the amount of the explosion was absolutely deafening. We are saved by kind of this kind of fence made of bricks and clay or something, but the amount of debris flying all around and smoke, and that was sort of the moment we thought, okay, that's it. Probably time to move on. We immigrated to Switzerland. It was 10 years ago.
Oh my.
Yes, and it's different. my wife started and finished the PhD. I did many things. I worked as an architect for several companies. They decided to strike it out on my own. And it's photography, illustration. I published a couple of photography art books. And right now I'm writing crazy stories.
Well, I love that you're writing, because that is awesome. And it's a creative outlet to kind of like share what's in here with the world. So, and the illustrations, like that is, they're gorgeous. Like I wish I could do stuff like that.
Oh,
Have
thank
you
you very much.
always been drawn to like colors and creating stuff like that, even before like going into academia?
Colors are, well, quite important part of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I used to teach color theory, one of the things I've been teaching, and the impact of colors is sometimes underappreciated in our society. I like red, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
as you can see, and the colors of my comic books and all the illustrations are pretty intense. And one of the reasons for it is that this is how I see the world. It's not just some I don't know, manner that I've acquired. I've been diagnosed with autism spectrum, which means that everything is like extra intense for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's reality. I basically see everything turn up to 11.
Nice.
And you get an, I don't know, insight to how it all looks like
Mm-hmm.
inside of my head.
That's actually fascinating. So being on the spectrum, does that affect how you focus when you sit down to create?
Yes, I am much more obsessive with getting everything perfect,
Mm-hmm.
which creates a problem because, for instance, the Great Convergence, it took me 10 years to finish. Now, I wasn't writing all the time. I wasn't working on the book all the time. I was like leaving and come back to it until at some point I decided, okay, it's time to finish this thing, and then it went through several editors until it got the shape that it is today. What else does it do being on autism spectrum? I talk a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mostly talk, and sometimes I listen, but listening is really difficult to me. It has an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
By constantly talking to people, I learn to keep my viewers' attention.
Yeah.
And if somebody doesn't want to listen to me, I assume they won't be reading my book, because I'm not interested. If you're not interested enough person, then you are not interested enough writer. So that's kind of a disadvantage advantage thing. And what else? I'm hopelessly blindsided on one hand. It's really difficult for me to imagine how someone feels. Basically, all the people I meet are some version of me. So if I would or wouldn't do it, I expect exactly the same from somebody else. And I've learned that it doesn't work this way. But for me, it's counterintuitive and difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really good with body language and facial expressions. I don't get it completely. I don't get smileys. People send smileys. I know that the angry smiley, happy smiley, this kind of thing, but I don't know anything else. It's just, what is this thing?
Yeah.
And there is an advantage to it. When I do listen, which I occasionally do, I listen very carefully, and I can. I'm very attuned to the tone of the voice. So sometimes I can read between the lines and understand much more than an average person can, because I disregard the body language and other social clues that normal people instantaneously understand. So, well, it's a mixed bag.
That's,
I know, and it has. I'm sorry, like I
you're
said, I
good.
talk a
No,
lot.
it's okay. Like, because honestly, there's not enough focus on, because there's a lot of authors that are on the spectrum, and some of them get discouraged because they feel like they're the only ones. So I actually like to kind of highlight that and point that no matter like where you're at, you can still go and be an author and write and use that creativity. So if you had advice to give to somebody who's discouraged, what would you give them?
Well, I think acceptance is one advice that I can offer. I know that many people on autism spectrum feel that they're doing something wrong. There is something wrong with them, or they should be like somebody else, and they should fit in, etc., etc. I've been outside of all my life,
Mhm.
and I'm okay with it, and it worked fine for me. Now, you shouldn't be an a-hole, okay, to people. That's bad, but you
Yeah.
should also be yourself. And I think many people on the spectrum uh, try to fit in so hard that they stop being themselves, and then it becomes a kind of a theater. Your friends are not really your friends; they are just people who tolerate you because you are somebody you are not. So being yourself, you will have fewer friends, but they will be the good ones.
Mhm.
As for writing, people on the spectrum, again, I can speak for myself. I'm pretty obsessive with what I do. And sometimes it's a good idea to take a break and go for a walk, talk to someone, do something entirely else. People have writer blocks. I don't have it. I don't understand it. I don't understand the concept of having a writer block. Why not? Because if I don't have anything to say, I just don't. I keep quiet. So, and usually the way it works, I think about, I don't know, my character setting or plot or whatnot. And the moment I've accumulated so much in my head that I can't hold it any longer, then I start writing. But only then. If I don't have it, if I don't feel it, there's no point, because why? You're forcing yourself to do something you
Yeah,
shouldn't be doing at the moment. So wait for the moment.
that's true. That's good advice. So I'm going to take us back to your book here. So I'm looking at your synopsis, and it doesn't mention the name of the main character, but it does mention his nemesis. So who is the main character? Tell me about him.
The main character is an academic researcher stuck in a dead-end job. And the reason he hasn't got a name, and there is no physical description of him anyway in the book, is that I wanted him to be kind of a voiceover. This is something that's you just hear, but you can't identify yourself with. The moment a character has a description, he or she is just a character. He's you. He's supposed to. You're supposed to talk directly to you,
Ooh.
which is why all you have is his voice, and he's highly biased. He's an obnoxious guy. I think obnoxious characters are the most interesting ones, and everything you read, you see through his eyes. And you have to, as a reader, understand what is really going on, because he's sometimes he's colorizing things. He's lying. He's not giving you the full picture, and that was the real fun, to create a character whose real motives you need to discover. Nothing is straightforward. Well, uh, such is the nature of philosophical science fiction, I guess.
That is
Scott,
really cool though. Like I like that. Like that catches my interest because that's something you don't see very often with books. And yeah, you totally have my attention. Like I totally have to check it out now. So because that's really cool seeing it through his eyes and like having to determine all of that. That's a lot of thought went into that character, and I love it.
well,
Sorry,
thank you very much.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but you were gonna say about Scott, the nemesis.
Scott is his nemesis, and the way I just describe the academic world of the future, because it's a world 10 million years from now. They run like for-profit corporation, and science and progress just a side effect of everything what they do. But mainly they fight for tenure. Tenure is the ultimate goal. And Scott and the narrator are they don't mind destroying the whole reality just to get the tenure. They absolutely focus on what they want and not what is really important. And Scott is portrayed as a nemesis, as the guy who is thwarting the narrator's research and actively, but through, well, if you read carefully, you can see a couple of sentences that maybe things are not exactly what they seem. Maybe Scott is not as bad as the narrator, or maybe he's just the same. They're just both doing something incredibly irresponsible in the search for, not the search, officially for the search for truth, but what they really want is to get the tenure.
Nice. That is really cool. And then you also have 3 different characters that you mentioned causing the convergence, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about them, because they're very different, each of them.
The first one, Larry, is a frustrated art critic who hates art. And he hates art to the point he doesn't even go to exhibitions. He has a literary talent. He is witty, and just by reading about an exhibition, he can write a fantastic review that makes him really popular. And his reviews are mostly negative. But this is what makes him famous. And digs a grave for many artists out there. Now, this guy is a little bit special, because this is what is important for him, the betterment of world of art, even though he hates it. He is what I call a singular. Singular is a person or an object that can exist in one universe at the time. Now, the whole concept of the book is that there is a multiverse containing several different universes and different realities, and in different realities we all have our doppelgangers. Now, Larry doesn't. He's the only one. So what happens is he switches between universes, and wherever he appears, chaos ensues. He's not aware that he's switching universes, because many of the universes, many of the realities are quite similar. For example, the only difference between some is that some planet in a distant galaxy is different, but other than that, they're all the same. However, if you take away Larry, then the whole world is kind of different, and he appears, and all of a sudden he sees that people don't recognize him. He doesn't know why, and of course he runs through the thermodynamics laws without knowing it. So anyway, lots of fun stuff that happens. There is another guy, Jeffrey. Jeffrey is a frustrated artist from Scotland. He's trying to impress his would-be girlfriend, for whom he produces a weird sculpture. And the sculptures he produces, because he produces quite many, portals to different universes. He doesn't know that. He's completely unaware of that, and he's creating this portals, and things start happening. And ultimately, at the end of the book, he creates this ultimate great, the only portal that connects the whole multiverse, and which explodes and causes the great convergence. Now, there's a third character, is a genius astrophysicist from Australia. He's a schizophrenic. He's the one who came up with the concept of the great convergence, and a couple of challenges with him. But first of all, he doesn't know whether or not the people he interacts with are real. Mm-hmm. So what he does, he carries a plush toy crocodile on him at all times, and the crocodile helps him ascertain whether someone he's talking to is real. And the crocodile is the only person he never doubts that is real. And of course, there are several imaginary beings in his head, and these imaginary beings all have their own lives. They argue with one another, so there's another layer of complexity on top of that. Now he believes, and it's not explained in the book, that his versions from other universes are coming to our universe to take over it. Is this his imagination? Is this true? We will never know. But he takes matters in his own hands and does something. I don't know. I wouldn't call it stupid, but well, certainly irresponsible. And the large part of the book is dedicated to him and descent to madness. Now, sorry.
Okay.
As a photographer, I did a project in an institution for mentally ill. That was a very long project. It took me 2 years to complete. And although Timothy is not a typical schizophrenia, I mean, if there ever is such a thing, there isn't. I drew inspiration from what I saw, for what I experienced, and I spoke to everyone at the institution, the patients, the psychologists, psychiatrists, the staff. Was quite an experience, by the way. And it's well, I guess you can see it when you read about Timothy and what he feels. So basically, all the characters. I wanted all the characters to convey their side of the story, the way they see the world, and what they feel, how they react, how they deal with the situations they come across. I talk a lot again.
No, you're good. It's actually really fascinating, because anytime I actually interview anybody, I like to discuss self-care, which is a form of maintaining your mental health. And I like that you're highlighting this in your book, because honestly, like, I feel like in the US, we don't focus and we don't talk enough about it, because we have so many mental health issues here. And it's just like, stuff happens from it when you don't take care of it. So, and that makes me want to ask too, like, with your book, with so many different aspects of mental ability, like mental health abilities, what is a takeaway you want readers to take from that?
That people have distinctly different values and viewpoints that we seldom consider. We tend to lump people with mental issues into the same box. Okay, the guy is crazy or something, but it's not that. Even people on the spectrum, even people with schizophrenia are really, really different.
Yeah.
Also, it's not like in the films. You see the guy running around the street with a machete, and this doesn't happen. Okay, in real life.
Yeah.
This is not true. I know the cop shows would like to believe us otherwise, but no.
Yeah, no kidding.
And especially for me as a person on a spectrum, I hope I succeeded in learning about and showing the reader the viewpoint of somebody else. That was the main idea, to see the world through the eyes of someone with mental disability, or someone who is blindsided, or someone who is I don't know, obsessed with creating a perfect art object, even though it doesn't lead him anywhere, like Jeffrey.
Yeah, I love that. And that I too want to ask, do you have a form of self-care that you take, like yourself? Do you take time out to do?
Well, as for self-care, being on a spectrum is not something you get cured of. It's just the way it is. And I don't run with a machete around the street. So that's fine. I try to do sports and quiet down, which is very very important, especially for people on spectrum. Like I said, everything is much more intense even when you walk around the city, it could be really exhausting.
Oh gosh, yeah, all the noises and yeah, I feel that. It's too peoply for me because I get overwhelmed myself with too much noise. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's perfectly fine. So so that I guess I pay attention to what my inner self tells me. And sometimes I get tired, sometimes I get annoyed, and I basically, because I'm not really good at getting the signals from other people. I need to constantly remind myself, okay, is this guy bored, or is he listening because he's I don't know, polite or not? And sometimes I ask people, okay, and this is this helps.
Yeah.
It's a form of self-care. And these are the burdens I have to carry for the rest of my life, I guess. But it's okay. On the other hand, I can process things faster, I guess. And well, creativity has its quirks.
Yeah, it does. So go ahead and tell our viewers where they can find your work.
On Amazon, obviously. I don't know if you will include the link, but there is one directed to my book. You can look me up on my website, www.thomaskast.com, and you can learn about my photography projects, all the published works, illustration, fine arts, the comic books, the Great Convergence. I think there's there is sample first 8 chapters you can read on the website.
Oh, that's cool.
Everything you ever wanted to know, there it is.
Nice. Well, Thomas, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.